Let's get across the market open. David Lane joining us from Autominute. David, welcome to Wednesday. Of course, all the focus on the Fed at the moment, and investors just a little cautious ahead of that decision.
Yes, a little bit, Andrew. Yeah, the markets overnight were a little bit weaker in the US as the investors sort of take a bit of a breather ahead of that Federal Reserve decision on Thursday. Expectations are that the 0.25% rate cut is pretty much baked into markets. But yeah, investors getting a little bit cautious about some of the economic numbers in the US and the potential of an economic slowdown. And we also saw in the UK and Europe, markets were substantially weaker there. So the UK market down 0.88%, and the other European markets were down more than 1%, with Germany down nearly 1.8%. So yeah, a bit of a negative lead-in coming into today's market.
We at the same time we saw the US dollar come off further. I think it's down to a 3-month low, in fact, and Treasury is also falling. Gold hitting yet another record.
Yes, it briefly touched 3,700 during the trading, which is the first time it's ever hit that mark, but weakened a little bit during the trading and closed slightly higher, but not up around that 3,700 mark. But yeah, still a very positive night for gold.
All right. Well, there we can see the gold price there. What are you seeing locally? It's fairly quiet, both data-wise and also on the corporate news front.
It is fairly quiet, Andrew. Yes, there's a fireside chat with one of the Reserve Bank Assistant Governors, Brad Jones, today. But other than that, not much in the way of economic news. BHP have come out this morning and confirmed that they're laying off about 750 staff at one of the mines in Queensland, which was disappointing, but it was also largely flagged in their report when they indicated that they're trying to save some costs and not investing in new mines. So locally, I really think that institutional investors will be focused on the upcoming index changes that happen next week. So there's a significant amount of changes that happen on the 22nd or before trade on the 22nd. So I think a lot of institutional investors will be repositioning their holdings in advance of that.
Interesting you mentioned jobs there. BHP laying off workers in Queensland last week. We've got a couple of banks making some significant cuts to jobs as well. Are we seeing any trends develop? Now that, of course, comes ahead of jobs data tomorrow.
Yeah, at this stage, it doesn't indicate a significant trend. Certainly, obviously, negatively impacting those people that will lose their jobs. But overall, the Australian job market still seems to be relatively robust. The unemployment number is still fairly low. So at this point in time, it looks like it's a little bit more company specific rather than industry trends. But yeah, certainly those jobs data figures will be closely watched by economists and the Reserve Bank, obviously.
All right. Now, you mentioned perhaps some changes to the local indices, just in terms of those companies in and out. What have you seen?
Yeah, it's a time when a lot of the institutions will change their investment portfolios based on some of the mandates that they've got. Quite often you see a lot of liquidity and volatility in those individual stocks. And sometimes you tend to find that the additions to the indices get a lot more support, and there's a bit of selling in those that are being removed from the index. So as far as the large cap stocks are concerned, Technology One moves into the ASX 50, and Treasury Wine Estates, which continues to have issues with their wine sales, they'll actually be moving out of the ASX 50. So it's likely that we see a bit of buying for Technology One and a bit of selling for Treasury Wines.
All right. Elsewhere in the ASX 100 and 200, what are the notable movers there?
Yeah, some interesting moves. We're seeing Genesis Minerals, Net Wealth, and Ramelius Resources coming in. So obviously the benefit of that strong gold price, we're seeing the number of the gold miners doing well. And the removals, Flight Centre, IDP Education, and Aurora are coming out. So certainly, Flight Centre, a big stock there that has been struggling a little bit, and will be coming out of the ASX 100.
More broadly, when you take a look at the 300, and you point out notably that it's the small caps that are on the move.
It is, yes, yeah. Significant number of small caps, changing in and out. The ASX 300 is going to have 40 names move out and 40 names move in. So a significant change there, and that is significant for the small cap managers, because quite often they have a mandate that they're only able to go down to the ASX 300, and as companies come into that index, they're able to have a look at those. So not a small company, but Virgin, they recently listed onto the market, and because of their new weighting in the index, they'll come into the ASX 300, as well as Firefly Minerals and Regal Partners, the fund manager that does a lot of work in the alternative space, as well as direct Aussie equities.
Now, David, overall, how are you seeing the performance of the local share market? A lot of comparisons made, of course, of what we're seeing on Wall Street, that narrow leadership continuing to hit record highs. Are you expecting the local market to underperform relative to Wall Street?
Look, I think it's a different market. Obviously, Andrew, we don't have as many technology stocks here. Notably, Technology One is coming into that ASX 50. So there is a little bit of tech focus here, but our market leaders are obviously the four major banks, CSL, which we've seen already come off significantly post-reporting season. So a bit of a shift is happening here already. We've seen the index relatively flat over the last few weeks. So, whether it's due to the index changes, or whether it's due to the reporting season, or that overvaluing of the larger cap stocks, we've actually seen a real shift happening in portfolios. So a lot of selling in those large caps, and a lot of support for the small caps. Small caps outperformed the large by about 3.8% during August, and we're still seeing that trend happening in September. So, bit of support for the small caps in the market at the moment.